that makes sense. So I want to go back to copper real quick.
Yes.
Because this was, I know as we were formulating Daily Core, that was one of the things that we did not want and we did not formulate in Daily Core. And I didn't even know that this was a thing until I was scrolling social media, because that's what I do. And scrolling social media, and I was looking at, somebody messaged a company and it said, does this product have copper in it? Now, fill us in on who, like, what is this? What's the deal with copper? Who should use it? Who should not use it? Because I'm very curious. And again, we don't have it in Daily Core, but I just don't know
and that was kind of specifically on my part, because some people can be very sensitive to copper. Again, it's heavy metals can regulate neurons and brain chemicals, and copper is one of those things that people can be very sensitive to. Too much copper and zinc have an inverse relationship.
Welcome to the 3 Women On podcast, your go-to for real talk on women's health, careers, family, and everything in between. Okay, this is my most favorite part of the week, is when we all get together to talk. So and this topic is so funny because, okay, well, it's not funny. Let me explain. Okay. This week's topic is what you need to know about heavy metals.
Oi!
But I'm not talking about like
the heavy metal bands. Like, okay,
yeah, I'm not talking about those. I'm talking about, like, you're seeing a lot of chatter about products that say no heavy metals, or and I guess I know, like, growing up, like lead paint is like a thing, like nobody wants that, right? But I don't,
arsenic,
right, which apparently is found in rice a lot. I don't know.
Yes.
Yeah. So it's just what I heard. But anyway, but let's talk about heavy metals in our food, maybe in our supplements, and just in general health.
Yeah.
So when they're talking heavy metals, Monica, what are they? And I use air quotes when I say they. What are they talking about?
That's a great question, because so my pop quizzes.
Oh, good.
Are heavy metals good or bad? Boom, or can they be both?
I would tend to say they're bad, but then you think of
think of bad to the bone. Okay, sorry.
I think of iron and chromium, and I think, okay, those are types of metal.
Bingo. So heavy metals, basically the heavy in heavy metals, and I do that in quotes, heavy, is basically because they have they're the weight of the element.
Got it.
So you can have good heavy metals as long as they're in balance, as long as they're not, over threshold.
Yes.
So iron and zinc.
Zinc. Everyone needs zinc.
Everybody needs zinc.
I know. It's like in things you take if you're like fighting off the crud.
Zinc, zinc is it regulates neurotransmitters, brain chemicals. It's good for neurons, for nerves.
Right.
So neural transmission. So so we do need heavy metals. We just need them in balance, and we need to not have the quote unquote bad heavy metals.
Yes.
Which are things like lead, like you alluded to lead, like lead paint, lead, mercury, arsenic, aluminum. Yep. Those are ones that we don't want to ingest. So we really need to understand when a product and whatever says free of heavy metals.
How are they defining that? Yeah,
correct. It should be the dudes you don't want.
Yeah, free of the bad heavy metals.
And I guess I really haven't thought about, you do hear like, oh, this fish is high in mercury.
Right.
I guess I haven't really put it all together that those are the heavy metals that other companies are talking about as well. But it makes sense.
Yep. Right. It should be, yeah. So, chromium is one that a lot of people are jumping on board because chromium is essential nutrient.
Yeah.
We need chromium, but there's also different forms of certain minerals. Heavy metals are minerals, right? So there are certain forms like chromium. It has different forms. You have some that are good and some that are bad. So in a supplement form, chromium should be the good biochemical form of chromium. So it's not a bad thing.
And the right amount.
And the right amount.
Right form and the right amount to make it that good essential mineral that we need.
Right. So it's not that black and white of,
Right.
so
That
when
some
you see
people
something,
make it out to be.
I think it's probably maybe it's becoming more of a popular catch-all phrase, free of heavy metals.
Oh, sure.
But we need to define that because we
Yeah.
do need some heavy metals.
And iron is also considered. I mean, because we see that
They're
I
elemental.
mean,
Yeah.
Huh.
So people don't. Yeah.
And some
So
people
it's-
need to take iron supplements. So
Some do,
that
some
would
do, and
be-
that's one
yeah.
that's kind of a little bit tricky. Copper is another one. Iron and copper are two that are, I feel, from a practitioner standpoint, need to be a little bit more personalized
yes,
because some people can't metabolize them very much, and so I prefer with the patients that I work with is to use those two as maybe separate own ingredients if that
Yes.
person needs it, because you can titrate it. You can titrate it into their diet, into their intake, more specifically than if it's covered in a comprehensive formula.
right,
Make sense?
right, yeah,
Okay, so that makes sense. So I want to go back to copper real quick
Yes.
because this was, I know, as we were formulating Daily Core, that was one of the things that we did not want and we did not formulate in Daily Core. And I didn't even know that this was a thing until ironically I was scrolling social media because that's what I do. And scrolling social media and I was looking at, somebody messaged a company and it said, does this product have copper in it? Now,
Yeah.
fill us in on what is this? What's the deal with copper? Who should use it? Who should not use it? Because I'm very curious. And again, we don't have it in Daily Core, but I just don't know
and
about it.
and that was kind of specifically on my part because some people can be very sensitive to copper. Again, it's heavy metals can regulate neurons and brain chemicals, and copper is one of those things that people can be very sensitive to. Too much copper and zinc have an inverse relationship. So you drive up copper too much and you can downregulate zinc and vice versa. But copper too, in the olden days, I shouldn't say the olden days, a lot of people, you can get copper much more in your environment, like copper pipes.
Oh yeah.
yeah,
And that's
and
kind of
drinking water,
in your
right?
drinking
And that's an
water and stuff
issue,
like that.
yeah.
So if you've got it in your multivitamin and you're drinking water from copper pipes, it may deplete the zinc effect.
Correct.
In a
Yeah,
vitamin.
and so a lot of people, copper can get you high copper, well, high zinc too, but copper is more commonly going to be high.
yeah,
It can cause a lot of anxiety and emotional, mental concerns.
Yeah.
Zinc tends to be downregulated in our environment because of the stripping of minerals in our soils. And zinc is one of the ones that tends to gets stripped from the glyphosates. Like we've had this conversation before. So we tend to be low in zinc. If you have a stomach acid problem, and you guys know I'm big on the gut, and that's why we're formulating very specific
yes,
microbiome supplements. Zinc can be one of those things if you have poor stomach acid balance that you don't. Zinc should be made itself if you have a healthy gut.
okay,
So that's kind of why a big reason why we were looking at let's formulate a blend that is comprehensive,
yes,
nutrient dense, devoid of ingredients or fillers that are negative, that is very good for the entire
broad-
population.
yeah, the broad
And then,
spectrum,
And is that the same? Tell me about iron then, because we've mentioned
Yeah.
iron, and we didn't include iron in Daily Core, but someone like me, I do take an iron supplement.
Yes, I prefer to give that as a supplement. It's because I can regulate how much a person gets. Right, I can say, okay, you can take it maybe 3 times a week, or you need 2 a day. You need only 1 3 times a week.
Right.
You can, and iron is very hard to metabolize, and so it can cause constipation. It can cause a host of issues.
So if you don't need it, you don't want to take it necessarily.
Yeah, iron can be really hard to metabolize. So it's those are some nice ones that, again, it's not necessarily for the broad population.
Right.
So let's formulate a good, wholesome, comprehensive product for the broad population,
Yes.
because then those that need maybe a little extra here or there, they can just go get a separate
Yep.
supplement.
Makes sense. That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But we are saying though that there are quote unquote metals, heavy metals, and what some companies would say heavy metals that are actually essential and are good for you.
Yes. But with that said, so we're also sourcing our ingredients, because we've been very careful about this, of looking at getting ingredients from soils that don't have quote unquote bad heavy metals, right? So there's a lot of prescription medications and there like arsenic in rice. So a lot of protein powders, you have to watch if they're rice based. You know, is this a concern if I'm drinking a protein powder 3 days a week or whatever? Did you know? I get my pop quiz. Here I go again.
I love it.
Did you know, like PPI's acid inhibitors, many of them have, like omeprazole, have aluminum in them. So we don't necessarily want to be. Aluminum is one of those things that's associated with Alzheimer's. Alzheimer's and aluminum have a big.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we don't, those are things we don't want to consume. We don't want to do, cook in aluminum pots, the guarded, what do you call that? The
foil?
The Teflon or whatever?
The Teflon,
Yeah.
those are
back
things,
in the day when, all of our
true.
moms had that and it was all
right.
peeling
Because it was
up.
a great thing.
Yeah.
Right. So those are things we don't want. We don't want mercury. We don't want to potentially use fish products or that have mercury. So a lot of people don't understand that Atlantic raised salmon, for instance, okay, versus farm raised. What's the difference? Atlantic is the same as farm raised, and that those tend to be higher toxicity than wild caught. Alaskan wild caught. So you want to go with the wild caught. I don't know if I said that right the first time. But wild caught versus Atlantic raised or farm raised.
Got it.
Oh, so when you're saying Atlantic raised, you're not talking about the Atlantic Ocean.
Yeah. That we don't, those are usually farm raised products. If
Oh,
you're getting
interesting.
fish, you want wild caught,
Wild caught.
Okay.
Alaskan wild caught.
Got it.
And we know mercury is more profound in our streams, in the mountainous streams and in
Yes.
trout and things, unfortunately. So those are things we do want to negate: the mercury, the arsenics, the
Right.
aluminum, lead, obviously.
And shout out to California for Prop 65 compliance. I mean, like but I mean, like seriously, because they have led the way on this.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I guess what I'm concluding based on this discussion is that even you might see no heavy metals, but really maybe Prop 65 compliant is a little bit more accurate in some of this marketing.
Yeah. For the yes.
When we're talking supplementation.
Yeah, because they have to test for, is there arsenic, aluminum, those kind of things
because
that we don't want.
Because not all metals are created the same.
Yeah,
Actually.
there you go.
Who'd have thunk?
Who would have thunk it?
Going back to chemistry class and the periodic
I
table,
know.
right? Oh my
Long
goodness.
time ago.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
interesting. I kept laughing when I was telling my husband, we're going to talk about, heavy metals this week. And he kind of gave me the look. And all I kept thinking about was like heavy metal again. Like, can
the
you
rock
imagine?
band.
Yeah, the rock bands, right? Because I think
it's our era.
it is our era.
Classic rock.
So,
Classic rock. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
well, great. This was great. This was super educational.
So hopefully you out there in listening land got a few pearls, but so
Good stuff.
But yeah, so I mean, I'm good with chromium. I'm good with some of the stuff that maybe
yeah,
didn't
because
think
we
about before.
need they're minerals,
Yep.
and we need them for our cells.
And again, in the right forms and in the right dosage.
Yeah. Yep.
Well, awesome.
There you have it.
Well, hey, thanks for joining 3 Women On. We look forward to seeing you next week, same time, same place. Thanks.